you were a 90s kid, you more than likely know what these are. Goosebumps. They were short tales of horror that were written for children that basically put their imagination into overdrive. 23 years ago, author R.L. Stine had created a monster with his Goosebumps series. The phenomenon all started with the release of his first Goosebumps title, Welcome to Deadhouse, in July of 1992. The hype could not be contained. With a total of 62 books released under the original umbrella title, it was all about getting your hands on every single one. The popularity was so big that there were even parody books being published. Reader beware, you're in for a scare. Yeah, that was basically the disclaimer saying, hey, if you're reading this in class and you get so scared that you shit your pants, that's not on us. We warned you. We were also given the Goosebumps TV series that ran from 1995 to 1998 with a total of 74 episodes. This was actually pretty awesome because it brought to life a real visual of the books we've been reading. The VHS releases were a must-have though if you were a Goosebumps fan. They were just the show, but in physical form with no commercial interruptions. And also, back then, it was collect everything Goosebumps. Man, this looks like shit. Speaking of collecting everything Goosebumps, you couldn't keep up. There were books, bed sheets, board games, backpacks, toys, lunchboxes, even a computer game I didn't even know existed. It was Goosebumps pandemonium in the 90s. But eventually, all crazes and fads come to an end. And sometimes, if they're lucky, make a triumphant comeback. And so here we are, 23 years later after the release of the first book, and we have a big budget Goosebumps motion picture. And we're just gonna shoot the shit and just say what we thought about it. So, alright. Well, you know what, let's give them a little background of, synopsis of what this movie's about. This movie's about this kid named Zach who moves to, I almost said Pumsville, Idaho. It's about this kid, Zach, who moves to Delaware with his mom, loses his dad about a year ago. They don't really say how. But anyways, he moves to Delaware with his mom and he's got no friends, starting a new school. His mom's the principal at this school, so that doesn't really help. And he moves next door to a pretty creepy neighbor, doesn't know much about him, but he has his interest. He sees this girl who he has no idea who it is. Her name's Hannah, who actually ends up being R.L. Stine, the author R.L. Stine's daughter. So R.L. Stine's living next door to Zach, and he's just a total freak, total Mr. keep to myself, don't come over to this side of the fence, don't come near my house, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, you're gonna get hurt. And, well, the quickest way to say this is Zach goes over the fence, Zach becomes friends with Hannah, and a shitstorm brews, basically because R.L. Stine has the original manuscripts to the Goosebump books. He's got the original manuscripts to the Goosebump books, and if the books are opened, the monsters come out of the books and unleash all hell. That ends up happening in Delaware, Madison, Delaware, thanks to Zach and his friend Champ. What'd you think, Brian? How did you feel about Goosebumps?
I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was amazing, but I thought it was really good. It flew by for me. It was a pretty great, I guess not a kid's movie, but a family movie.
Right.
And I guess they did a great job too. If you're a fan of Goosebumps, obviously everything you want's there. Like all the different monsters. I mean, they make references to everything, all the different book titles and everything like that. So
yeah, they do. And what was really cool is that when you see the older shows, it's almost like Slappy. Slappy was basically the main villain in this movie.
Right. Yeah.
Slappy is almost the I'm not gonna say alter ego. It's like R.L. Stine's other half,
right.
Well,
it was voiced by Jack Black too, right?
Oh, was it really? Oh, okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's basically what it was. It's like, oh, Slappy, you and I are the same person, everything like that. Slappy, the ventriloquist dummy in Night of the Living Dummy, main villain. He's the one that's like, oh, you want to lock us up in these books? Slappy starts, unleashing all the books. He starts opening all the books and starts burning them so the monsters can't be put back in the books. That's another thing. You can get the monsters back in the book if you hit, get up to the monster and close the book on them, basically, with
basically a ghost trap.
Yeah, like a ghost trap, like Ghostbusters. So Slappy was a great villain in this, and you're right, like you say, all the monsters are in this. Every monster you could think of is in here in some way, shape, or form. If it's just mentioned, they also have a big shot of all the monsters together. And if you really sat there, there's hundreds upon hundreds of monsters. If you got a good high-res picture of it, you could probably depict all of them. I won't lie to you. There's 3 movies this year where I had the most fun. Goosebumps, I'll be honest with you, when the trailer came out, I had no hype for it. I was kind of just like, whatever. I feel like it was kind of late. I felt like it was kind of late for this movie to come out. It was kind of out of nowhere because it was like, oh, Goosebumps are coming out. Oh, all right, cool. And the CGI in the trailer didn't really interest me. I go, this kind of looks like it's going to be shit, you know? And I went and seen it on a whim. I go, well, I'll end up seeing it. But I was so bored one Thursday night. I saw a 9:10 showing, so ended up going with Matt. And I just was cracking up the entire time. I had the most fun I've had at the theater in a long time watching this movie. Like, I had a hell of a time.
Yeah, I will say that was one of the good parts about Goosebumps. They were like really on point with the dialogue because it was actually legitimately funny throughout. Like, I almost enjoyed the beginning more just with like the dialogue and him interacting with Hannah and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like they were having funny conversations, and even his aunt, like I thought she was hilarious.
Oh, she's what's her face from Workaholics, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
The-
Like, she was hilarious.
She was, and that's, you know, here's another thing about this. Every actor in this movie, fantastic.
Yeah,
Like,
no, great job.
I'm not big on new kids that are actors. I'm like, these kids are shits. You know, like, it doesn't seem like there's a passion in the acting, and it's just like, get these good-looking kids, and here, act because we need you. No, the kid who played Zach, the kid who played Hannah, the kid who played Champion.
I meant to ask you, is that the kid from,
This is
for yeah, that ugly kid from there, dude, that is
what
him.
What is his name? We go, what's the rock star that they said he sang not Free Falling. Yeah.
Tom Petty.
Tom Petty's
Yeah.
like Tom Petty looking motherfucker.
Yeah,
that was him, yeah. Dude, all those kids in there were fantastic, and I felt for these characters. Like,
Right.
I felt for Zach, I felt for Hannah, and it was cool. I was cracking up the entire time.
So, you know what's weird to me is, so you went at like 9:10 on presumably a school night, so probably not a ton of kids in your theater. I went on a Saturday afternoon, the whole theater was packed with kids, and none of these kids got any of the jokes. There was no laughing in that whole theater, except for Bridget and I. No, it was like all kids, and none of them were laughing at the jokes. That's what was crazy to me. They reacted to the monsters, like once the monsters came out, but the whole first half, it was like dead. Like,
Really?
These jokes were not touching with the kids. Like, I don't know if they just like did not understand them or like something along those lines, but it was really weird because I'm like, this movie's hilarious. Like, how is it not landing right now?
Do you know what? It's funny that you say that because I was cracking up the entire time and I was laughing pretty hard. I think people in the theater were actually laughing at me laughing because I was cracking up at everything, and you just hear people laugh after me, you know? And I was like, am I the only one laughing here? There weren't many people in the theater because when we went, it wasn't kind of dead. There wasn't a lot of people in there. I go, oh, I thought maybe there'd be more people for this, but I was just cracking up. I wasn't drinking either, you know? It was like, I was like, yeah, I'll, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was weird to me that the kids weren't understanding the jokes. Like, I get how some of them might have been, like, not adult-oriented, but it might be over a kid's head or something.
It's almost like a SpongeBob joke that it's like, you know,
right,
towards,
like, they might laugh just because they're supposed to, not because they necessarily understand it. But yeah, they weren't landing with these kids. It was really strange. Oh, did you notice R.L. Stein cameo at the end of the movie?
Loved it, yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that's another thing, since you brought up R.L. Stein. The characters in this movie, loved all the characters, but I was telling you earlier that Jack Black plays R.L. Stein in this movie. He's the author of the Goosebumps books, and I was saying that Jack Black almost had to make R.L. Stein a character in itself because you're playing this person, but R.L. Stein that I've always seen in interviews since I was like younger, you know, he used to be on the tapes, you know.
Yeah, he did the intro to the Haunted Mask.
The Haunted Mask, yeah.
That.
But he always had this I'm not going to say monotone. He was, I don't want to say...
It was monotone, though.
Yeah, it was like monotone, and I don't want to be like he's kind of frumpy, but it's like, he just was always like, even back then, he seemed old, you know? He's 72 years old now, you know?
Wow.
I think he's 72, and so back then, he just always was like, this. Jack Black made him as this, we ride, you know, like, do this, do that, you know, and it was like, he made them this high, you know, just this character that was so... What's the word I'm looking for?
Energetic.
Just
the Jack Black version of anything, really.
Yeah, exactly. The Jack Black version.
If you don't like Jack Black, you're probably not going to like this movie, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I love Jack Black.
Same,
but I'm saying, like, he's still Jack Black. But no, it worked out perfectly for this movie.
Yeah. Do you know what's also good about this movie? And here's the thing is, it wasn't, it takes place in the fall, like, and they're in school and everything like that, but did you kind of get a Halloween feel out of it?
I sort of did.
Yeah, kind of like this Halloween-ish feel, even though Halloween wasn't the setting. I kind of got, like, this feeling that it was Halloween.
Yeah, I think it's just the whole school and
Yeah.
dance type thing. It's
Yeah.
like you get the feel that it's like, you know, a homecoming, and that's always taking place around this time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the vibe it gives off.
Yeah, and even when they're outside, like the leaves blowing by, and like
Right.
it just kind of has this atmosphere. One thing though that I thought was kind of silly about this whole movie. Think about this. This movie is about these books, the original Goosebump books that Jack Black, R.L. Stein wrote.
Mhm.
And if they get opened, the monsters come out. So why in the hell did R.L. Stein leave the key 10 feet away from these books? It was like, if you knew like that mass chaos would ensue if these books were open, why would you leave the key right here? You know, it's like...
No, his typewriter's locked up in the school, like down the street, but the key's 10 feet from the books.
Dude, here's another thing about the typewriter. Hannah said to Zach, like, well, I probably, you know, we move all the time, this and that. So R.L. Stein moves in this neighborhood. He doesn't like to talk to anybody. He's a homebody, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So why does his school have his typewriter and everything, and like one of his books that were empty, you know? It's like, oh, it's down the school. I think they had no idea how to get R.L. Stein, because they have to get to the school to warn his mom. They have to get they have to save the kids basically, because these monsters are headed towards the school. But they were sitting there thinking, well, how can we get R.L. Stein, the character, how can we get Jack Black down to the school? We'll act like we put his typewriter in there, and that was a big important part of the movie. But you sit there and go, well, why the hell does the school have his typewriter there? I mean, I don't know why. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point.
He's not from that town. You know,
I guess I just assumed that, you know, he was like a notable writer, so they put it there. But this guy lives in our town. But I mean, you're right. It was just a flimsy excuse to get him to the school.
Yeah, because another thing is he was basically saying, I can't write anything unless it's this typewriter. Pretty sure if you're that close to that typewriter, you're not putting it in a school. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a school that in a town, like he was ready to move out of the town. Remember, we got to get out of here. This is bad. Pack up. So it almost seemed like he wasn't even living there for a long time. The way he was like talking.
Yeah, because she mentioned that they move around a lot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I don't know. That was kind of like two little parts where I was like,
right.
You need to make a story here. So it's not like you could just find a key. I'm pretty sure R.L. Stein would have that key locked up in a vault, you know, because you're not leaving it. Like it was like a dessert tray. It was like a dessert dish. Oh, here we go.
It was a pretty solid movie.
Solid movie.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like I said, it was some of the most fun I've had at the theater this whole year. Mad Max and Jurassic World were 2 other times, but I had an awesome time. All the actors, actresses, the acting was fantastic in this movie. I love the story. I love the monsters. Another thing too, this movie's not scary. It's not scary really, but there was one time when I was sitting back. I don't like clowns. The clown that they have in this movie, he scares the shit out of me. Like
yeah, that was a creepy clown.
That's a creepy clown. He reminded me of the clown from Cabin in the Woods. Like I don't know, it was quick in Cabin in the Woods. He freaked me out. Do you know? I do want to wrap this up a little bit, but I was getting these feelings when the gnomes. There's a part where the monsters are out and the lawn gnomes start causing havoc. I was getting this Gremlins vibe. I don't know about you, like.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like they're destroying everything in the kitchen and whatever like that. Maybe it was the sound effects that they were using when the gnomes were like screaming and whatever like that. I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm watching Gremlins 2, like when they destroy the kitchen on what was it, like Marge's cook show, or I think it was her name, Marge. I don't know. But no, I was getting Gremlins vibes, and it was cool. It was kind of like I felt like a kid again watching this movie, and maybe it was nostalgia. I don't think it was because I don't know. I don't want to say it was nostalgia. I think it was just an awesome movie.
I don't think it's pure nostalgia, just for the fact that you could have taken the Goosebumps property out of this movie and it still would have been the same thing, really. Because it's just a movie about a bunch of random monsters. Yeah. And it helps that Goosebumps tied it all together.
I legit thought, wait, I don't even want to talk about it. There's a part when the kid got ripped out of the school by the praying mantis, and I go, they killed a kid in this movie. I was like, oh my god.
Then he came back.
Yeah, then he came back. But I was like, oh dang, they got dark with this movie out of nowhere. So yeah, we're not going to tell you the ending. We're not going to tell you the whole story and everything like that. So we just recommend you guys going to go see it, you know. So
yeah, definitely a movie you want to see in a theater. Like, it's a fun movie. You just want to, like, chill, watch it on a big screen, enjoy it. All right, Brian, what do you give this movie out of 10? I'm going to say this movie is like a strong 7 out of 10 for me. 7 out of 10? Strong 7.
Nice. I'm going to give this movie an 8 to an 8.5. I almost want to give it a 9. It wasn't perfect. I mean, it's hard to be perfect. Like I said, most fun I've had at the theater in this all year. So I'm gonna give this movie like an 8.5. I won't give it frosty, pretty frosty Bud Lights, but we're drinking Beard Bender today. So we're gonna give it 8 frosty Beard Benders. That's what we're gonna do. So yeah, go see Goosebumps. It's in theaters. It's been out in theaters for about a week now. It's a great movie, great family movie. So thanks for watching another episode of Reviews on Ice. And hopefully we pump some more Halloween stuff out. We're getting near the end.
Yep.
Getting
Wrapping up here, man.
Getting
It's gonna
kind
be
of
Christmas
sad.
in a week.